everybody, and welcome to First Things First. We made it to Friday. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This guy over here, this is Nick Wright. Great show today. Lots of great games this weekend to talk about. Patrick Mahomes will take on Tom Brady on Sunday. Dak Prescott making some bold claims, but why not start with the Eagles and Giants, but mostly the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. The Giants' goal last night, tried to save their season. Apparently, they should have had a backup goal. Second play of the game, Eli picked off. Just the start of a terrible night. The pick set up a Carson Wentz touchdown to Alshon Jeffrey. A beauty as he gets out of trouble. One of their 2 touchdowns on the evening. Wentz had 3 total. The frustration built up for Odell before the half. First, head-butted a cooling fan on the sideline. It was very humid, in his defense. And then left for the locker room before the first half was up. Important to note, Pat Shurmur blamed Odell's departure on dehydration. Either way, that face right there, that said it all. Eagles win 34-13. Here is Eagles head coach, starting quarterback, Carson Wentz.
It's a big win for us, NFC East. Finally get that conference going. Short week like it was. Cleaned up a handful of mistakes. Obviously, we weren't perfect tonight, but come out early in the first quarter, get points on the board that first drive right away. That stuff was huge, so it was a big win for us.
Well, the goals, still, go win every game you play. That's all you can worry about. So it's in the NFL, you take it one game at a time. There's no advantage of doing anything differently. And that's all we can do. Just try to fight our way back and to give ourselves a chance to have a chance to win the division. No one's running away with this thing. That's all we can worry about right now.
You just got to keep digging. Put your head down. And just keep digging away. Just work harder. That's really all you can do. It's either you keep digging, you work harder, or you give up. And I don't think anybody in here is giving up.
Look, the Giants didn't do themselves any favors last night. The Eagles also put together for the first time in a couple of weeks a fairly complete game. How were the Eagles able to dominate New York last night, See?
Especially listening to Carson Wentz. He let us know they struggled as far as scoring points early. They hadn't been putting many points on the board in the first quarter. So now looking at that, how does the defense create turnovers? So it became a team effort. The offense is able to get points. Defense creates another turnover. They get more points going against a team that they're very familiar with, who they believe that last week against Carolina, that's not their offense. That's not the type of team that they are. Even with those 2 touchdowns early, I believe it really relieved a lot from what the Philadelphia wanted to do. Mission accomplished. Let's be positive as far as getting the ball. And I think this started long before the game. I believe when Philadelphia got on the bus, they got on the bus with the type of grit that got them into a championship. Well, Cris, what makes you draw that conclusion? It started with me with Lane Johnson before the game, working out with the head coach, Doug Peterson, and the training staff. They're testing that ankle. He's got a high ankle sprain. For a wide receiver and for an offensive lineman, especially a tackle, because he's setting and that ankle is hinging back, that's one of the worst injuries you can have for that position. So seeing him, and they kind of embraced after the workout. Now, he didn't look great. He was limping through it. The ankle was heavily taped. He got knocked out of the game earlier. But I believe it sent an overall message as far as we are a team that's going to defend the Super Bowl championship. It starts with our big people, and you could see through him playing in the game. Jason Peters, the left tackle, gets knocked out of the game with the bicep. So I believe that effort of Lane Johnson and the overall grit that champions have, it played out in this game. And they actually were able to execute what they were doing. Score points, create turnovers, give the offense multiple possessions. And that's what I saw the world champs doing on Thursday Night Football. Nick.
It felt like for the first time all year, the world champs were back to being anything like they were last year. How did they become world champs last year? An excellent offensive line. Well, Carson Wentz was only sacked once last night. An outstanding pass rush and defensive line. They either sacked or hit Eli Manning 18 times last night. And one of the best third down teams we have seen in modern NFL history. Last night on third down, Carson Wentz, a tidy 13 of 14, a 156 rating, 2 touchdowns, 12 yards per pass.
The first 10 in a row.
10 in a row. Absolutely right. And which was a nice juxtaposition to the Giants' just total debacle for a couple weeks on third down, which we'll get to later. But they looked like the way they played when they won the Super Bowl, when they got to the Super Bowl. You said before the show, how about getting back to the RPOs?
Oh, yeah.
How about if it worked for Nick Foles, maybe it's going to work for our 6'5" stud franchise quarterback?
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what they got back to. Alshon Jeffries making contested plays, running the different variations of the RPOs, sometimes motioning him in where he can run a stick route, other times leaving him out wide where he ran a slant route. But those were the things that we saw, especially in the NFC Championship with Nick Foles and this offense. Doug Peterson goes back to it. Nelson Aguilar making a couple huge catches there to be able to keep drives going.
The one play where Wentz got hit, Wentz gets hit on the arm. The ball still travels 16 yards past the line of scrimmage, and it looked like Landon Collins was waiting for it. And that could be a huge play because early in the game, the Giants were moving the ball. They had to settle for field goals. They looked like they might be able to overcome Eli's turnover and fumble. And that could have been a swing play of the game. I thought it was going to be. Joe Buck called it like he was anticipating a pick. And what did Nelson Aguilar do?
He converted. He cuts in front of the safety, prevent the turnover, keeps the offense going. And also, you know, guys like Jordan Matthews coming in, getting 2 critical third down conversions. We saw the quarterback being supported by very good play calling and other guys making plays. We knew they were struggling with running back with their injuries, but they still got these guys the football so the offensive line could roll off on that Giants D.
Before the game, we talked about whether the weather would slow down the pace or slow down their offense or just sort of, shorten it a little bit. It didn't look like the Eagles were affected by that at all.
That's the reason why you have someone like Carson Wentz. You got a guy 6'5", 230 pounds. He can throw the ball through the wind. Like the rain, it was going to be a part of the ball game, but that's why you have a big stud quarterback. That's why in Philadelphia, man, as the season progresses, you're not worried about the weather in October, November, and December on the East Coast because you got a guy that weather is not going to make that much of a difference.
And that it's not foreign to him. Like your thing running, I don't want to say joke, but running commentary about Rosen and Darnold is both of them grew up in cities with beach attached to the name. Both of them went to Southern California colleges. Where did Carson Wentz go to college? North Dakota State. I'm not quite certain what city that's in, but if it's in North Dakota, the weather ain't great.
Yeah, they do have a nice dome up there they do play in.
And so, but do they practice in the dome as well?
Well, I'm just sure, but you're living in it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you're living in it. It's awful weather. They have a dome stadium, North Dakota State. Good for them, man. I had no idea. Learn something new every day. But you don't think the weather in general adversely affects him the way it would potentially other quarterbacks. It's one of the reasons why he's a good fit there. And even if I'm skeptical of a guy like Josh Allen playing at Wyoming, where they better not have a dome at Wyoming. No. We're at Wyoming going up to Buffalo. And so, that didn't play a huge factor in the game. To me, what played a huge factor in the game was the Eagles looked like themselves. This was, to me, similar.
Themselves of last season.
Yes.
Clearly not the themselves of this season.
You know what? They played up to their ability. Now, you could talk about last year whether they played up to their ability, and the Giants, it's not that the Giants aren't that talented. That's what it really amounts to me. So I was getting ready to say, well, the Giants played up to their lack of ability, and I'm sure we're going to break that down later.
But was it enough to turn the season around? Did the Eagles play well enough that you could say, okay, this is where they made the turn?
Well, that will be determined in the next 2 weeks because they have 2 really good teams, Carolina and Jacksonville, coming up. But what I'll tell you it reminded me of was that Pats-Dolphins game a couple weeks ago, where we said, okay, now, if the Pats lose this game, it's time to actually worry. And what did the Pats do? They put together their most dominant, complete game of the year up to this point. We said yesterday that while the Giants' season was on the line, for me, taking the Eagles seriously as a championship contender was on the line. And they played a dominant game for full 60 minutes.
Yeah, these are teams that have been playing each other over 80 years. Jenna, you talked yesterday about the last several meetings, how tight the matchups were. So we thought it was going to be a back and forth, a field goal at the end. That's a typical Giants-Eagles game. But, man, the Eagles handed it to the Giants. So now, is it enough? Because we were posing the question yesterday, this could go either way. I thought the Giants would I thought the Eagles would be able to handle the Giants. So, yes, after a blowout win, the divisional on a Thursday night, yes, the Eagles are back on track.
By kickoff, this was a 1.5-point spread in Vegas. The Eagles were as small of favorites as you possibly can be, and they absolutely, every phase of the game, offense, defense, special teams, dominated the New York Giants. They looked like the class of the NFC East, which I think is the heart of your question, like can they now power past Dallas and Washington? And the Giants look like a team with no answers, just a bunch of bad questions.
At the end of the day, both teams showed who they really were and what direction both of them are going
Yes.
in. All right, got to take a break. Coming up, might we be seeing an AFC Championship preview in Foxborough this weekend? Next on First Things First. Welcome back. We'll get to some Chiefs Pats in a bit, but first, a little preseason NBA. Pelicans, Raptors, Drew Holiday, the no look to Anthony Davis.
Going to be a two-man show in New Orleans this year. Drew Holiday is going to have to continue his level of play he had at the end of last season, and Anthony Davis is going to have to keep being Anthony Davis.
It's going to be a two-man race for MVP. That guy and the King.
Don't leave out Giannis. Let's not leave out Giannis.
Yes, I did. That's your list. My list got two on it, the Brow and the King.
See, 14 months in, we got to see
Giannis
making
can't even
lists.
get into the Mexican
Georgia
restaurant in
High
Milwaukee.
School football.
He ain't no star yet.
Clemson commit Andrew Booth with a nice touchdown catch. By the way, going to Clemson to play cornerback.
Oh, okay. So does that mean his IQ is going to drop between high school graduation and college? Is he going to go from being one of them smart receivers, one of them dopey defensive players?
Well, you can already tell that Andrew ain't the smartest football player already for one. Chose Clemson over Ohio State. No, Clemson's a good school. Dabo got it going on. But the DBs don't get paid more money than wide receivers.
All right, Thursday
At Clemson,
night
they
football.
all get paid the same.
Silver lining.
Good
Sammy
stipend.
Watkins would say no.
The only silver lining for the Giants, that guy right there, Saquon Barkley. Incredible night for him.
Man, I thought
this run.
Buck and Aikman were going to propose mid-game to Saquon. They were justifiably wowed by this young man yesterday.
No, he was impressive. What he did running the football, making people miss. When you have that type of ability, I can understand why they compared him to so many of the Hall
Barry
of Fame.
Sanders, man.
Earl Campbell thighs. That was a little stretch.
Moving on to the game of the week, Patrick Mahomes and the 5-0 Chiefs in Foxborough take on Tom Brady and maybe some of the other Patriots. I don't know. Mahomes has lit up the league in his second season, last week besting the Jags' elite defense. On the other side, you got the Patriots, who overcame a slow start to get back on track with their offensive weapons on the field. Seems like an early battle for supremacy in the AFC. Just please, whatever you do, don't ask Bill Belichick about that.
Coach, you feel like you're playing for the top seed in the AFC with this game, that the stakes are that
I feel
big?
like we're playing Kansas City.
Does it seem like a higher stakes game than normal?
Feels like
for
we're
a
playing
season?
Kansas City.
Who says Bill's not in great moods? He was actually in a really good mood at this press conference. How did the Chiefs beat the Patriots? How does Patrick Mahomes come out and best Tom Brady on Sunday?
Well, we can talk about Patty Mahomes. We can talk about the offensive weapons. But if the defense does not play better than what they've done, without their best defensive player in Justin Houston, if they don't, because right now, you're talking about defenses, 29th against the run, 26th in coverage, 30th in tackling. I don't know of a team that's been 30th in tackling and going to be able to beat the New England Patriots.
What are the Pats in tackling, by the way? They're first.
Oh, yes.
They're first. So you have one of the, and that's Pro Football Focus's rankings. Like you have one of, if not the worst tackling team in football against a team that, for whatever talent limitations they have on defense, they're not missing a lot of tackles.
So to me, it amounts to how long can that offense with Patty Mahomes are they going to be on the field? New England knows these numbers. What we've seen the last 2 weeks from New England leads them into this big-time matchup on Sunday. They're going to run the football. New England will run the football 30 times in this game, at least, because it's one of your weaknesses. It's one way that I can combat. It's not Tom Brady against Patty Mahomes. It's Tom Brady's offense going against this defense. Patty Mahomes' offense going against the Patriots' defense. So I believe ball control, eat up the time of possession, make this young quarterback antsy as far as time on the field, and then try to create some turnovers for their defense. That's what I believe New England will do. They will get some yards, Kansas City, between the 20s and New England secondary trying to create some turnovers. Those are the differences, I believe, going into the game what New England will be trying to accomplish.
Listen, I think that the Pats are going to move the ball. You mentioned running the ball 30 times. I thought this could be a game where James White has 10 catches, where they are throwing it out of the backfield, where they're taking advantage of mismatches, where they are making the Chiefs tackle in space. Because you said it, they're one of the worst tackling teams in football. Where I think the Chiefs can have some success is at least up to this point this year, some areas the Patriots are typically great at. Defensively, they've been average or well below average. Third down defense, one area the Pats historically are great at, getting off the field. They're 26th. Red zone defense, they're exactly middle of the pack, 14th. They're not getting to the opposing quarterback. They're dead last in sack percentage. So you would think Pat Mahomes is going to have time. So this is going to be, to me, I don't think the Pats defense can stop the Chiefs offense. I think they might be able to slow them a bit. But can they get one more stop than the Chiefs offense can get? The Chiefs famously played a playoff game 15 years ago where they didn't force a punt the whole time. It was a great offense in the Chiefs with Trent Green against Peyton Manning, and an even better offense in Indianapolis. I'm not saying it's a game where the Chiefs can't force a punt, but the Pats could have long drives where they're getting 6 yards each and every play, and they're keeping the Chiefs offense off the field. That's the Pats' path to victory.
Listen, no matter how much Andy Reid prepares this team, this game seems bigger and will feel bigger for the Chiefs than it will for the Patriots. Because Bill Belichick will make sure that what he said in that press conference, I'm sure, is the message that he delivers all week: another game. While some of these Kansas City players will want to match themselves up with supposedly who usually the best of the best is. How much will it mean for this Chiefs team if they do come out and beat the Patriots?
Jen, that is a good question. Belichick will try to act as if every game is the same. Is this a big-time game? It's Kansas City. Are you guys going to be ready? Well, we'll be ready to play Kansas City. That's the outward. But they know what's going on. They know it, Tom Brady. They realize they lost the Super Bowl. So let's just imagine we get on this show on Monday, and New England is, after 6 games, 3-3. And Patty Mahomes is thrown for 400 yards, and they get to 6-0. Like, New England knows what's at stake here. They will downplay it. Oh, it's just another game. No, just like that Miami game wasn't another game. And they went out there and sent a message. New England knows better than other teams what the situation is, what's at stake, even though they can stay focused on the moment. If New England wants to have home field advantage, this game is very, very important.
I would go as far as say, if they lose this game, they're almost drawing dead to be seated higher than the Chiefs. If the Chiefs are 3 games up in the standings and have the head-to-head tiebreaker,
yes,
like that, if those two teams, you're 4 games clear with 10 to play. Like that is, so it is, as far as the standings go, team perspective-wise, an enormously important game for New England. The Chiefs could lose this game. Yeah, they lose a tiebreaker, but they're still a game clear in the standings.
Right.
And so, but on the Mahomes-Brady side of it, if we are on here Monday, and the Chiefs have won, and Pat Mahomes has had a great game, I think we might be talking about this game the way a lot of people have been waiting for a game to talk about for the last 5 years in the AFC, which is a passing of the torch of the AFC quarterbacks. Because Andrew Luck had a couple opportunities, had an AFC championship game opportunity, a famous Deflategate game, where if he would have, that was before we knew Brady was going to go on this 4-year run from that moment forward, where if he went in there and beat Tom Brady with the pedigree Luck had pre-injury, would have been saying, man, that was Brady handing off the best quarterback in the conference torch to Andrew Luck. He couldn't get it done. Deshaun Watson has played him twice. Played well in one, played poorly in another. His team's not ready. The other quarterbacks in the conference that we think are potentially near Brady, Big Ben, Phillip Rivers, they're in year 15. Right. This is an opportunity, if the Chiefs win and Pat Mahomes plays well, for him in this conference, it'd be different in the NFC, but to take the mantle of who's the best quarterback moving forward, who's the best quarterback right now in this whole conference. Patrick Mahomes can stake the claim to that on Sunday night with a win.
What about Patrick Mahomes at Foxborough? What's that like for a young quarterback? What's the environment like for a young quarterback?
Now, that's a real question, because trying to go against the Pats, what their defense is doing, their fronts, their coverage, Belichick trying to design things, and that home field advantage. They're used to winning. They got smart football fans, just like Kansas City does at home. So I think his games that he plays in Kansas City and then playing in Denver, it's great experience of going to Foxborough. And what he faced a couple weeks ago in Denver, I believe there will be carryover because there is no tougher place to play than Mile High. All right, in Foxborough, it's the same type of environment. People are used to winning, but I believe that little experience that he did get a couple weeks ago will help out.
Well, and remember when we were talking about the Dolphins game, and the only player on the Dolphins roster that had won in New England was Frank Gore when he was playing for a different team?
Right.
Almost everybody that Pat Mahomes plays with has won in New England because they beat him there last year. He was on the sideline to watch Alex Smith and company win in that stadium last year. Now, I know Belichick against young quarterbacks at home is basically undefeated. Belichick against inexperienced quarterbacks at home has won, I think, 20 straight. The numbers are jarring, but this Chiefs team is one of the few teams that can say, oh, we gone in that building and won. The Tyreek Hill knows what it's like to win there. The Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce, those guys know what it's like to win in that building, if that matters. And that was also, by the way, nationally televised, night game, all the eyes of football world on you.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up, some bold claims from Dak Prescott ahead of the Cowboys matchup with the Jaguars. That's next on First Things First. Welcome back. The MLB postseason continues tonight with the Game 1 of the NLCS. Dodgers ace Clayton Kershaw will take the mound as he looks to shut down Christian Yelich. Won't be easy. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. Dodgers, Brewers. This should be a good one, guys.
Should be a good one. Jenna Wolfe cost me a lot of money yesterday. Into the show, she gives this great stat about the football game. Last 10 games been decided by 5 points or less. Either way.
You bet against
Giants? No, I bet on your stat. Giants +3. That worked out real well. So Dodgers tonight laying -150. Clayton Kershaw building off his best ever career postseason start. See if he can do it. I think they will. Christian Yelich tries to stay hot.
Big weekend in sports on Fox.
Yes.
Yes.
Enormous.
Friday, Saturday. We started off yesterday, Thursday night football. Got Friday, got the baseball. Saturday, got the Buckeyes, got a couple football games. Sunday, got the game of the week.
Excited weekend for Fox.
Shut it down.
Bat.
So good. Make no plans. Time for us to go viral.
What you doing this weekend, bruh?
Odell Beckham had a tough night, but he had a highlight before the game showing off his kicking skills. You see that? You guys make
Yeah, he spins the ball and kicks a field goal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 37-yarder. 37 yards.
Yep. He's a really good soccer player from what I read. Legitimately. That's what his theatrics and all the faking and everything is. He's a soccer player. Could you, at the athletic prime, longest field goal you think you could have made or that you did make at practice?
No, my feet aren't that talented. Kickers are, no.
Couldn't do it?
No, just the basics. I don't really have a whole bunch of skills kicking the football.
Okay. Yeah, I tried once at I was out at a practice.
That was leading up to?
What? No, because it was. I wanted to say to the audience.
That's like a Jenna thing to say.
It is impossible.
I'll ask you a question so I can tell you a story about me.
It is. I failed miserably. My point is, even a 20-yarder, it is to me way more difficult than I think people watching assume. Like if you played soccer, I could make a 20-yard field goal. No, you couldn't.
Yeah, football's very hard, but for you, walking 20 yards in a straight line.
Also very hard.
Hey, what up?
I tried to set you up for success there. See, I assumed you were going to say you nailed 40-yarders. Hold on.
Relax.
Can I say this? It's never good when your big highlight comes before the game starts.
Oh. Headbutting the cooler, all that kind of stuff.
Bap. Time for stories
That's
to
a good
start
third
your
down
morning.
conversion.
Panthers getting some good news ahead of Sunday's game. Tight end Greg Olsen could make his first appearance since suffering a broken foot back in Week 1. He did practice in full, hopes to play in Washington. Nick Wright, how much would Olsen help Cam and the Panthers on Sunday?
I'm so excited that our friend Greg Olsen is back. Greg Olsen, remember, if Cam throws for 400 against Washington, Greg Olsen is wearing Cam's outfit to the post-game press conference. He made that commitment on the show. A great job by him and the training staff getting him back after he re-breaks his foot in Week 1. He's back already in Week 6.
I would put him on a pitch count. I'm leery of this injury because it was supposed to be repaired last offseason. He's already had one setback. Man, it's a grind to the finish of the season. I would be shocked if he doesn't miss some more time. I'm pulling for him, but I would be shocked if he doesn't miss more time going forward.
All right, big matchup that might be flying under the radar on Sunday. The 3-1 Bears visit the 3-2 Dolphins. Mitch Trubisky, Khalil Mack, and the rest of the Bears have been one of the season's early surprises. Cece, what will the key be for Chicago to get a win on the road this weekend?
Miami's offensive line, much improved. Laramie Tunsil at that left tackle. Can he hold up against that fierce rush of the Bears and Khalil Mack? That's what the game. Ryan Tannehill, will he protect the ball in the pocket? He's been fumble prone, interceptions prone. When he gets pressure, that will be on center stage on Sunday.
I want to see if Khalil Mack can continue one of the most remarkable streaks that I've ever seen in the NFL, which is a strip sack in every single game thus far this season. He would go for his 5th straight this weekend. And for Miami, like, hey, they were one of the talks of the league at 3-0. 2 straight losses where they looked bad. If that falls to 3 straight, all of a sudden you start reevaluating if that first quarter of the season was a little misleading.
Yeah, John Gruden's going to regret that Khalil Mack trade his whole
for the rest of his life.
Until he's back on TV.
Yep. The Packers take on the 49ers on Monday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers said he had a little setback with that ailing left knee after Sunday's loss to the Detroit Lions. There's a chance he might need a bigger brace moving forward. Cece, explain this to us. How could a bulkier brace affect Rodgers?
He's probably got more movement, and he's got more flimsiness in the knee joint that it's moving from side to side, so they have to put some heavier hardware to make sure that the knee does not move, to be able to stabilize it. Typically, it means it's a little bulkier, it's a little heavier. Aaron is a great athlete, and as an athlete, when you're not used to wearing braces and everything, and you start putting braces on those major ligaments and areas, it hinders his overall mobility, and I believe it will affect him.
And we even saw last week, despite the fact that they removed him from the injury report leading into last week's game, if you watch that game, there were a number of plays where Aaron Rodgers of last year or 2 years ago would have just run for a first down.
No doubt.
Where he was rolling out, had a first down in front of him with his legs. Instead, he tried to force something in there. He is not himself right now. His passing numbers are still good, but you can tell the lack of mobility is hurting their ability to move the chains on a consistent basis.
All right, and back to last night's game. The Giants might have lost the game, but they won the running back battle. Saquon Barkley, the Giants' first-round pick, had 229 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown, including a number of dazzling runs. What'd you make of Saquon's performance, Cris?
It was very impressive. His ability to be able to make NFL guys miss, because the wear and tear at running back is significant. And when you can't make people miss, it becomes almost impossible to have big gains and be consistent. Like, you can't have an offensive coordinator draw up plays as a running back. You're just going to be wide open. When you're one of the featured parts of the offense, people are going to key on you. They're going to try to take you out of the game. So you have to be able to make people miss at the line of scrimmage. He has explosive ability. One of the few players that anywhere on the field, he can score. Yeah, there's only a few players in the NFL that can do that. There's only a few. Couple running backs, couple wide receivers. That's it, a handful of them, and the Giants have one. He is a special player. They got zero maintenance with him off the field, so he's got no marks as far as his character. You know, it seems like, based on the telecast last night, with Troy and Joe Buck being around the team, it seems like a lot of the people on the team are gravitating towards him as one of the young leaders because he's a great example. He had good examples of that when he was at Penn State, now carrying that over to the Giants locker room, paying huge dividends. I can understand why the Giants draft him at number 2, because as Gettleman said, if the guy's sitting there and he's a Hall of Famer and he has that type of ability, I think Barkley early in his career has shown us that he has been worth the hype.
Because of Eli's play in the Giants' record, that number 2 picks become very controversial. Should have taken a quarterback. Should have taken a quarterback. That commentary has nothing to do with his ability. It's about whether or not you can ever get the value from that position if you don't have the quarterback. What he showed you last night, though, is if next year they draft a quarterback, that quarterback's going to be walking into a situation very beneficial, where you've got a stud running back, a stud wide receiver, obviously got to shore up the offensive line, but a lot of the weapons that we've seen around some of these other young quarterbacks, whether it's Jared Goff in Los Angeles, Pat Mahomes in Kansas City, where you are set up to succeed.
Those guys inherited a good situation. The organization went out and supported that by getting Kansas City, going out and adding someone like Sammy Watkins. The Rams going out and getting
Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, getting him from the Pats. Those things to support that high draft pick that you have at quarterback.
He was 1 yard away. I wish he'd gotten it. 1 receiving yard away from becoming the first Giant ever to have 100 receiving, 100 rushing in the same game. In a game where the Giants could not move the football, he had, what, 240 yards from scrimmage? Like, I mean, he was 65% of their offense by himself.
Playing against a defense that came in, especially their front seven, playing well and not giving up a lot of yards.
And so, go ahead, Jen.
No, I know that the transition into the NFL for a running back is a lot different than for a quarterback. It's a little easier. But is this ahead of schedule of where you thought he'd be 5 games in?
Our best running backs that we have in the game today, if you take the 5 best running backs, all right, and I'll throw Shady McCoy in there because he deserves a lot of respect. Him, Hunt, Gurley, L. Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, all those running backs, immediate success. There is no transfer from little league to high school to college, and college to pro like running back, because their instincts, they're very, very natural. They're God-given. No coach can teach them. And a lot of the plays and how they see the game is the same way. And now you have a lot of the runs being matted up with what they run in college as far as being in the shotgun, tailback right next to the quarterback. So they're getting a lot of reps at seeing it. And when you're good in the NFL, typically as a running back, you're good immediately.
The rushing champ 2 years ago was a rookie. The rushing champ last year was a rookie. The record Saquon is chasing, most 100-yard from scrimmage games to start a career, was set last year by Kareem Hunt. So these are guys right now, the top level guys. They are transitioning from top level college players immediately to top level NFL players.
Definite silver lining for the New York Giants. All right, Giants. Yeah, really.
The only lining.
They aren't the only team in the NFC East having some offensive issues. The Cowboys are as well. 2-3 on the season, hosting the Jaguars on Sunday. But here's the thing with Dallas. A win over Jacksonville, and they're tied atop the NFC East with the Eagles. But plenty of finger-pointing going on in Dallas this week, and a lot of it pointed at the quarterback, Dak Prescott, who knows he's got to be better for his team's season to get back on track. Listen to this.
I can improve. Obviously, I hadn't had my best showing of that here recently, so, I mean, there's area for improvement, and I can do that. That's why I go out there every day. And just try to do that in everything I do and getting my feet right, making sure it's all in line, feet and eyes in line, and just making sure the ball's coming on my hand the right way. And that's the frustrating part about this, is I know I'm a better player mentally and physically than I was a year ago and 2 years ago. So that's what's frustrating about all of it. But it's about sticking to what I know, believing in the people that I know and the coaches, and just fighting through it, and it'll get better.
So, Nick, is that just something he was saying? Do you think he really believes he's a better player now than he was 2 years ago when he had that outstanding, phenomenal season?
I think he should believe that. I think almost every player in the league believes they are, in their first 3 years, getting better every single year. The problem for him when he says that, and we hear it, is you just look at what his actual production is, and his career's been, it's like the stats page is flipped upside down.
Opposite.
It makes perfect sense if this is his rookie year, last year's year 2, and then rookie year's year 3, because this year has been his statistically worst year, last year a little better than this year, and then his rookie year way better than all of them. So maybe you can explain this a little bit better. Do you think it's possible that he actually, not only that he believes it, but that he's right, that he actually is better, and it's just not manifesting itself statistically, wins on the field at all?
Yeah, because the way people took his comments, the only way they can equate it is touchdowns, interceptions, and wins. But the game is not played that way. He's so much better than he was his rookie year. And the reason why, he wasn't ready to be a starter. He won the starting job because of injury, so he didn't win it. It was handed to him. Now, the team was playing well, so they decided to go on with him, with Tony Romo being on the bench, but they weren't running the same volume of offense. They weren't running as sophisticated a passing game as they're running today. No, he was a rookie quarterback. He's been to 3 training camps. All right, he's had 2 off seasons. Not only, forget the off seasons in the classroom and the amount of football, coverage recognition, front recognition, how he can determine if the blitz are coming. He started too many games not to be better at it. Now, sometimes it doesn't equate to what people can see, but I know Dak Prescott is a lot better. I know his body's in better physical shape. He's been around NFL teams, eating their food, using their training staff for a couple years. The drills that he's working on, they're not college drills. He's not at Mississippi State anymore. He's working out with NFL quarterback coaches that train him how to play in the NFL game. So, yes, it doesn't mean that we're going to see it all in year number 3, but as a football player, he's a lot better. And I'm sure the Dallas coaches, so no, we shouldn't be taken aback by his comments. That's what happens when you're around football. If anyone been around this show for 3 years, they're going to know a lot more about football being around me. I hope they do, Dusty. I hope they do. That would be a crime. I mean, it would be a crime to get all this information and everything.
Dusty thinks it's the opposite, by the way. He thinks he hopes you've learned a lot more about football being around him for 3 years.
Yeah, I mean,
Dusty's
it's like
our great statistician.
It's like, Dak. He's like, man, I'm around the NFL think tank. You can say what you want about Jason Garrett, Scott Linehan. They know more football than 99% of the population. Yeah. And they're teaching Dak as much as he can, consume at once.
All right, so how does Dak Prescott in this offense penetrate this Jaguars defense on Sunday? How do they even begin to attack here?
Remember what we were saying about the Saints defense a couple weeks ago? How the Saints defense turns every quarterback they're playing into Drew Brees. And the numbers that Brees was having this great start, but quarterbacks against the Saints were playing even better than that. Well, the Jags do that same thing, but in opposite. They turn every quarterback thus far this year into a worse version of Blake Bortles. Like, we can say Bortles is bad, whatever it is. Bortles on the year has an 82 rating. Quarterbacks against the Jags have a 77 rating. Bortles this year's thrown 8 touchdowns. Quarterbacks against the Jags have thrown 3 touchdowns. Like, quarterbacks against Jags are averaging 190 yards passing, less than 6.5 yards per attempt. So every quarterback has struggled against Jacksonville.
Including Mahomes and Brady.
Absolutely right. So what's Dak's best shot against Jacksonville? Man, a hope and a prayer and a heavy dose of Zeke, because nobody has been successful passing on this Jags defense. So this isn't exactly a get-right game for Dak Prescott, even if he's a better player going into game 40 of his NFL career than he was at game 1.
Yeah, they don't have the matchups on the outside. Not only Jalen Ramsey, but A.J. Bouye is playing tremendous football. We never talk about him. He's the corner opposite of Nick's favorite guy, Jalen, who's always talking. AJ's not saying much. They have gotten their money worth since he's come over as a free agent. So Dallas doesn't have the matchups on the outside. They got to shorten the game, hope they get a short field by their defense. Defense got to create some turnovers, potentially score on defense. If they don't score on defense, I don't see Dallas winning.
According to Football Outsiders, A.J. Bouye has not allowed a touchdown pass in over 700 snaps.
Wow.
Over 700 snaps, he hasn't allowed a touchdown pass. He was one of the big free agent acquisitions along with Calais Campbell a year ago that helped this defense go to the next level. We do talk about Jalen a lot because he talks a lot and he's great. But, AJ, they are the best pair of corners in football.
CC, I'm much better at football. Much smarter human being.
You're better at football?
Yeah, I'm better at football knowledge. I'm a smarter human being, having been around.
You talk worse, though.
Dusty for the last 2 years. Dust, that was for you. Coming up, is Baker Mayfield about to lead jokes on jokes on jokes?
Oh, you see it, America? She just got it.
The Browns on a playoff push. We need more coffee. That's next on First Things First.
This show's not in tape delay, but Jenna is.
Oh, come on.
It's about 6 seconds
I just found
later.
this out.
Yeah.
Welcome back to First Things First. What's everyone laughing at?
Yeah, you.
No, we are now joined by Cris.
Welcome me, guys. Don't welcome.
See, it's great to have you. Let me tell you.
Y'all figure it out.
Come on, CC.
Doofus and
I came on the set and complimented your tie.
It's okay.
Let's
It's on my
get some
corner.
of that. Get off Jenna's back.
Thank
nice
you.
dress, Jenna.
I really
Let's
appreciate
go.
it.
Run
Let's
that.
talk
Smartest
some
one we got on
Baker
this dang old
Mayfield
show.
and the Cleveland
The pride
Browns.
of, where'd you go? Shippenberg? Where'd you go?
Yeah.
She went to Binghamton.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
They host the
Couldn't get in
Chargers on Sunday. That is not true. Is that a school? Shippenberg.
Go ahead, Joe.
Shippenberg State.
Cleveland hasn't won back-to-back home games since 2014, but there's new energy in Cleveland, and he wears number 6. This week, Baker said the Browns are capable of making the playoffs, but it won't be easy. Chargers have won 2 straight. Here is their head coach, Anthony Lynn, on what he sees in Mayfield and the Browns.
They were talented last year when we played them. You know, that was a scary game for us. So, like I said, they just learned how to win, Ashley. You know, they've won some close games. They're 2-1. They could be 4-1 right now. So it's a dangerous football team.
A lot of people think that, especially now that Baker is sort of coming into his own. What do you expect to see from him this Sunday against the Chargers?
Well, I expect Baker Mayfield to be that poised individual, take care of the football, which he has done relatively well at home, and then being able to operate the offense and then being able to continue to sustain drives. And that's exactly what I think he's going to have to do, because this Los Angeles Chargers team features an explosive offense. I mean, Phillip Rivers is playing otherworldly right now. 1,500 yards passing, 70% completion percentage, 13 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, and he spreads the ball around to all of those different weapons, whether it's Melvin Gordon, Eckler out of the backfield, Tyrell Williams, Mike Williams, and, of course, Keelan Allen. This offense it's one of those tough offenses to stop. They have tremendous balance, which is something that Anthony Lynn talked about this week in his weekly presser, and just saying that they are able to have that balanced attack. They can score a lot of points. And that's why the Los Angeles Chargers have had the success that they've had in the early part of the season, because they can score. I don't think the Cleveland Browns want to make this a shootout. I think that they have to be able to have a ball control offense and be able to rely on that defense being opportunistic. Let's face it, this is a big play defense. They haven't done well with total yards, but they've made a lot of big plays. That's why they're #1 in takeaways.
And they first forced 15 turnovers, which is an insane number. It's first in the league by a mile. Forcing 3 turnovers a game is crazy. So you're absolutely right. They are a different version of bend but don't break, because they're bending a lot, and it's not even that they're some great red zone defense. It's that they are turning you over and creating extra
Somebody's band is going to play when the Cleveland Browns defense is on the field. Whether it's the Cleveland Browns band or the Chargers band, somebody's band going to play. But, I mean, that defense is really active, but I think that the offense can help them by being able to control time of possession. By the way, that's one of the things the Los Angeles Chargers offense has been able to do very well this season.
What I'm looking for is something I know people won't look at. Football in Ohio is pretty special. Saturday's like a holiday. Ohio State, when they're playing at their best, they are the pro team in the state. But people love the Browns. The people in Cleveland love the Browns. And Baker Mayfield, what he's done is he's brought an energy back to that city and back to that franchise. The coach mentioned it, Lynn. They're 2-2-1. They could be 4-1 right now, easily. They are learning to win. But I just believe the home crowd. There's a reason why you give the end zone the name the Dog Pound. It's not just because people wear masks. It's because they created a great atmosphere for the fans to be able to play, and they related with the players. Baker Mayfield's the only one that could be able to overcome all that losing to be able to bring that energy back to Cleveland. So what we're going to start to see, especially with huge wins and huge games where they represented well against Pittsburgh and Baltimore, we're going to see that home crowd start to come back. We're going to start to see the Dog Pound. Like, they're going to start to have a home field advantage of playing on that mucked up field, that loud noise there in the end zone. And I believe that could be something to slow the Chargers down. The Chargers, they don't have no home field advantage. No. They're a team without a town.
They were practicing silent count last week going into their home game against Oakland.
Right.
Well, how come no one's talking about the Chargers right now? If they win, they'll be 4-2 quietly.
So here's the thing with the Chargers. The Chargers are the hardest team in my eyes to adequately determine where they're at after 5 games because of who they've played. Their 2 losses are against 2 teams that everyone would have lost to, basically the Rams and the Chiefs. And their 3 wins are against the other side of the standings. The Bills, the Niners, the Raiders. So I think there's 15 teams in the league that if they had played the Chargers schedule would be 3-2 with the exact same wins, the exact same losses. So what they have going for them, obviously, is Phillip Rivers is playing as well as he's ever played, maybe. You can that class of 04 quarterbacks, Pro Football Focus says Big Ben is having the worst season of his veteran stage of his career. Eli Manning, we're about to talk about whether or not it is over for him. Phillip Rivers is playing as well as he's played. Now, he's got a challenge this weekend. The Browns have a shockingly great pass defense. They have a better pass defense statistically than Jacksonville. Opposing quarterbacks, a 74 rating against Cleveland. Have thrown more interceptions than touchdowns, completing less than 60% of their passes, which in 2018 might as well be 40% of passes 15 years ago. So he's got his work cut out for him against Denzel Ward, against Myles Garrett, against your guy Larry Ogunjobi. Like, they can get after the quarterback and they can stop the pass.
And for a long time, I believe there's been a media bias against the Chargers, and they just don't get the attention. Even when they're good, you don't think that they're going to be able to finish it off. They were like Clemson was in college football before they got Deshaun Watson. You knew they'd be good, but they're going to blow a game. You know, their special teams had been poor for a long time. So I think going into the season, there were a couple question marks. Mike Williams, the young high draft pick from Clemson, sat out with some injuries. How would he emerge? Melvin Gordon, would he take that next step as a running back? And would I believe be their best player, Joey Bosa, he's been out. So with him missing since the beginning of training camp, I think some of the optics have gone off. They were one of those teams that you thought could take that next step and fight for their division, and that's what the Chargers have done. They've just done it, where people aren't giving them the type of attention that we give the other teams.
They were the Vegas favorite in the AFC West this year. They were the favorite, and then the year started in a way that it felt same old Chargers, where they were terrible on special teams. Once again, it's been 5 years, man. They've been bottom 3 special teams, not just kicking, not just field goal kicking, all phases of special teams. But I don't know that anyone could have anticipated Rivers playing at this high of a level. Mike Williams having the bounce back after he was one of those 3 top 10 wide receivers last year, all of whom were not Corey Davis, John Ross, Mike Williams, who were unproductive or injured their rookie years. If they can win this weekend, and then they got Tennessee and then a bye, and then Bosa's supposed to be back, all of a sudden you would start taking them very seriously.
I want to end the way we started with Baker Mayfield. You talked about a well-balanced team in a Chargers team. How far off are these Browns from themselves being pretty balanced? They're almost there on defense. They're almost there on offense.
Yeah, well, I think they need more weapons on the offensive side of the ball because you started the year, they had Antonio Callaway, Josh Gordon, and Jarvis Landry to go along with David Njoku at the tight end position, and then Carlos Hyde, Nick Chubb, and Duke Johnson in the backfield. You said, man, there's a ton of weapons on this Browns offense. But Josh Gordon's no longer here. Antonio Callaway has been up and down. And then, of course, Jarvis Landry has been Jarvis Landry. But I think that you look at it in terms of being able to give a young quarterback the best opportunity to be successful. You need to surround him with some more talent, especially on the edges of your offense. And so I think there's some work for John Dorsey to be done in that regard. But that means that they need to lean on that running game to be able to have some balance on offense.
Chubb needs
to touch the ball a little bit more. Carlos Hyde. And then, of course, we know what Duke Johnson brings to the table, not only as a runner but a receiver. I think you lean on that aspect of your skill position players until you can fortify the receiver position.
All right, Chris, stick around. More to come. Is Bill Belichick about to put the brakes on Patrick Mahomes? Hot start. That's next on First Things First.
That was the song, wasn't it?
Back here with First Things First. Chris Canny still with us. The NFL is downright giddy over the Sunday night game this week. Chiefs and Pats, a 5-0 Kansas City team taking on the always reliable, always there in the end, never aging New England Patriots. Mahomes versus Brady. Mahomes has lit up the Eagles in just his 2nd season. Tom Brady doing just that in just his 19th season. Seems like an early battle for supremacy in the AFC. Just ask Bill Belichick.
Coach, you feel like you're playing for the top seed in the AFC with this game, that the stakes are that big?
I feel like we're playing Kansas City.
Does it seem like a higher stakes game than normal?
Feels like we're playing Kansas City.
Do you know who the Patriots are playing this week?
Kansas City.
So Bill Belichick knew that too. Okay, so talk about what the Chiefs have ahead of them heading into Foxborough on Sunday. How tough is this going to be for a young quarterback like Pat Mahomes?
Well, the Chiefs like to score early, and you have to think that Bill Belichick is going to try to limit some of that by what he does with his defense, particularly the looks that Pat Mahomes sees in the red zone. But if you're Andy Reid, I think you've got to put your quarterback in situations where they can create explosive plays on offense. You're going to need some plays of 40-plus yards to be able to hit for touchdowns. You don't want to have to consistently be in red zone situations going up against a Bill Belichick coach defense just because you know he's going to have some wrinkles that your young quarterback hasn't seen. So you've seen Tyreek Hill have the explosive plays in the passing game. 9 of his 27 catches have gone for 20-plus yards. So you're going to start to see some of that. I think it needs to be a basketball on grass type of approach with this Chiefs offense. They major in 11 personnel, which is 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back. But I think you need to see some spread looks from that offense, some 2-by-2 when it's two open sides of the formation, and have Travis Kelce split out like a receiver. I think you put the secondary of the New England Patriots in some tough matchups just because you have an advantage from an athleticism standpoint. That would lend itself to getting explosive plays if you get those one-on-ones in the passing game.
Jenna, you're going to recognize in this game that if Kansas City can make New England play on their terms, they want to play. I used to be a fan of John Thompson, Georgetown Hoyas. The reason why they press you, Nolan Richardson,
Yeah.
Man, 40 minutes of hell.
At Arkansas.
Yeah, the gym is hot. They press you, man-to-man, full court press, and they run up and down. That's what Kansas City is. They have to play that type of football game that Canty, 31 personnel, 3 wide receivers, speed sweeps. They got to bring college football right to Foxborough. And if we watch that game on Sunday night and we think, hey, man, are we watching a college football game? Then Andy Reid has the game on his terms. If they get into a phone booth and they want to play like Alabama football, you are going to say that, yeah, it's college football, but it's not the style that Kansas City and Andy Reid want to play. So style of play, like we say with fights, it makes fights. This is a big game, though. Regardless of what Bill Belichick right there, the more subdued he is, the bigger the game is. This is almost like the Super Bowl then. If he's like, it's Kansas City, that means it's bigger. If he was excited, then I would be like, this is not a big game.
When you say, the style of play, what does Mangini say? The Pats don't like to dance, they like to punch.
Yes.
And the Chiefs got a bunch of dancers, not a whole bunch of boxers. And remember last year, they played this game. I'm not focusing on it because the Chiefs won there. But the Pats, throughout the course of the year, started stealing from things the Chiefs did. You had that great breakdown. Do you remember it?
Absolutely.
The Chiefs ran a play.
Speed sweep and ran up the
Tyreek Hill up the seam. And then we saw the Pats start using that by week 3 of the season. So I also don't think we're going to see the Pats this is an important game. They obviously want to win this game. But they are going to also be learning during the game, seeing because the Chiefs are going to give it their best punch because they know we win this game, we are on our way to the #1 seed. Like, I understand that maybe the question, Belichick's not going to answer it, but they win this game. They're 6-0. The Pats are 3-3, and you have the head-to-head tiebreaker. They already have the head-to-head tiebreaker with Jacksonville. They have a head-to-head tiebreaker right now with the Chargers, and they play Cincinnati the following week. They could basically lock up the AFC in the next 10 days as far as the 1 seed. The Pats are going to be trying to see, okay, what are the Chiefs trying to do? If we have to face them again in the postseason, what is their go-to? The question I'm curious with you guys is this. We know the Patriots are famous for trying to take away what you do best, take away your favorite thing. What do you think they'll go into this game trying to take away from Kansas City? Because I don't know what the Chiefs' #1 option is.
Oh, that's simple for me. I think it's take away the throws in the middle of the field. You make Pat Mahomes throw the ball to the edges of the field. You got to take away Tyreek Hill over the middle. You got to take away Travis Kelce. You make the degree of difficulty on a young quarterback a little bit greater by forcing him to throw the ball outside of the numbers. I think that's the best way that you give your defense a chance. And, oh, by the way, you give your defense time to react to those throws out of the numbers, just knowing that you don't have the most athletic guys on the back end of that group. So I'm looking at that and saying that's what you have to do, try to pack that defense in, force them to throw the ball to the edges.
Yeah, when you have as many explosive players as Kansas City has, you start defending concepts compared to people. So you start taking away regions of the field. I'm going to try to negate the middle of the field. I'm also going to try to negate their speed on the speed sweeps, where my ends, instead of playing a 7 technique, we talk about that wide 9 technique. So watch for New England on the outside for them to play a little wider so they can get steeper into the backfield to negate that. So
would that also keep Mahomes in the pocket more? Because that's what I thought you guys were going to say, is that their whole game plan is going to be make sure Pat Mahomes has to play inside the pocket.
I think these things are bigger. And then along the way, you have to try to make it. You can't take away everything. The reason Belichick, he loves his team to take the field with a lot of confidence. So you can't give them too many things. You know something? You got to take away the deep pass. You got to take away the trick plays. You got to take away Hunt. You got to take away.
Right.
You don't want the team to panic. You take away some of the concepts, and we have more success if we make Patty Mahomes. So that contain on the sweeps also keeps Patty Mahomes in the pocket. But this is a task for New England. Now, they had a couple extra days. This is the kind of week you need that extra week. You need to be AFC Championship game where you're getting ready. As you've won that and going to the Super Bowl, getting ready for a Kansas City. So I believe New England will struggle with their concepts.
On any given Sunday, the Patriots have 2 advantages over any of their opponents, their quarterback and their head coach. We've talked about the way their quarterbacks are going to match up, these quarterback and Patrick Mahomes. But what about the head coaching? If there's any coach who can match football wits with Belichick, wouldn't it be Andy Reid?
Absolutely. He's one of the guys that you would like to have in the game. But, I had a great coach tell me one time, Chris, hey, it ain't the X's and O's, man. It's the Willies and the Joes. All right? Now, Belichick can say whatever he wants. That's the team he picked. Andy Reid's got more talent. So in that tail of the tape, Belichick, this is the kind of team he wants to coach. Andy Reid, this is the team he wants to coach. Andy Reid can rectify some of his late game antics, late game blunders, playoff blunders by this matchup. All right? We could be talking about a changing of the torch in the AFC. Patty Mahomes. Nick talked about it. Hey, this might be Brady passing that torch right off to Patty Mahomes if they can get a win. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but these are real things that New England's going to have to deal with, and the talent that Kansas City and the speed that they have presents one of the biggest problems.
Yeah, I mean, New England's got to slow this game down. That's what it comes down to, right, CC? And I think you'll see Bill Belichick pay more attention to what he's doing on the offensive side of the ball in terms of being able to dictate the pace of this game and how it's played. Because you mentioned Kansas City, they want to run up and down the field with their offense. So the best defense for that offense is to keep them on the sideline. Sony Michel, he's been running the ball. That's been effective of late. They need to stay with that part of the game plan. Also, Tom Brady, look for him to be aggressive early in this, try to get up on this Kansas City Chiefs team, so you force their offense to be one-dimensional, just because you know for the Patriots, the strength of that team has to be their offense.
Right now, the Chiefs are like a grade card of like a frustrating student. A bunch of A's and A+s and a handful of F's. The Pats, I don't think, have many A's and A+s except for maybe Gronk and Brady. They got a lot of B's, a couple C's. What will determine this game is, can the Pats exploit the Chiefs' F's? The Chiefs' F's are their ability to tackle, their ability to stay in front of dominant wide receivers. Like, are the Pats just going to be able to convert every third down, where the Chiefs, shockingly, have actually been the one spot they've been good defensively, third down defense? Are the Chiefs able to get stops? Because I do not think the Pats defense can stop the Kansas City offense. I think that the 27 points is the minimum the Chiefs are going to score. The question is, are the Chiefs able to hold the Pats under 35?
What's the over-under?
Over-under for this game? I haven't looked at it.
Something?
Oh, it's definitely in the 50s.
Definitely.
I would guess 55 and a half. I'm going to check right now.
Get on it, Dusty. Chris, we'll see you a little bit later on in the show.
Gambling.
Coming up, have the Giants hit rock bottom. That's next on First Things First. I'm reading slowly so you can figure it out.
59? Holy moly. 59? That feels like a teaser game, see? You don't do that no more. Canny is who else.
Yeah.